We're learning so much. Let's get on with creating another very common interface element, and that's an input field. Now, what I like to do is I combine drop downs with input fields. And to do that efficiently, let's just create a frame. The size will be 40. I'm gonna keep this as some kind of a smaller size. When it comes to input text, I'm gonna add in text, but we're not gonna use button. We're actually gonna use regular body text. And when it comes to the font color, I'm gonna make it the 900 one. Let's center these a little bit like this. I can make it 12 just because I think most often when we're looking at things like left and right paddings need to be a little bit bigger than top and bottom ones. Just something that I've noticed in other places and from experience. So 6. Let's do this as 6 as well. Since it's an input field, let's just make it white and let's add a stroke to it of 100, maybe 200. 100 is going to be a little bit too small. So we have an input field like this, and let's turn it into auto layout. Now, I do want to ensure that this kind of fills the container as much as it needs to. And I do want to make sure that these later on expand as they need to. But since I also want to cover things like drop downs and some other elements that are common in UI, I will add an icon in here. And I will add another one. Because for things like time input or money input, it's very useful to have icons on the left side. So I'm just going to add these icons in. This is the text. This is going to be the frame that we're going to use. And I think that's going to work perfectly. Okay, so let's turn this into a component. Let's call it an input field. Amazing. When it comes to the properties, let's create this. Let's make both of this icon right now. Chevron done. Okay. Let's make this icon left. Oh, is it not working? Icon left. And this is gonna be icon right, but I think I have to go outside and actually rename it into icon right. Okay, that's perfect. That's perfect. Let's just make it icon left through, and on this one as well, icon right through. Okay, so if I drag this out, now we have the property. First property is we're just gonna keep it like that, but now we have the ability to hide some of these icons, and let's just reorder these fields. And here, left, icon right. Under the visibility. Okay, so if I hide the icon left, the text moves to the left side, and the drop down for choosing that icon is removed. But if we have it in here, we can switch it to anything else we need. Perfect. The only thing I'm gonna do in here is for these colors, I'm actually gonna change them to something a little bit less noticeable, something like 400. And for some reason it didn't apply to this immediately. Hopefully that's not going to be a problem, but let's test it out by dragging this out and switching this to another icon. Okay, so the icon color stays and we have it in the perfect spot. I think I'm actually going to make this a little bit bigger. When it comes to the spacing, I think it's going to be needed. And perfect, we have our first property in here, which is going to be state, and the state is going to be default. And let's duplicate this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make it an auto layout, because in here it's going to be too many of these. So this one is going to be active. And for the active one, let's just change the color to this. We're going to have to flip the icon in that sense. So I'm just going to have this one and turn it into blue. All of these other things can stay. Okay. When it comes to, in all of them, I need to actually expose text. So I'm going to do it by here, enter text, create property. Amazing. Okay, the third one, so this is the active one. We're gonna have to have some kind of a state where someone is typing. So I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna enter this. I'm actually gonna have both of these in an auto layout, and I'm gonna make the spacing 0, and I'm gonna have the text at 400 like this. I'm gonna duplicate this. I'm gonna remove this from here, and I'm gonna have this be a placeholder. So this state is gonna be called a placeholder. This state is gonna be called typing started. Let's duplicate this again. Let's call this typing in progress. And I'll just reverse these, and I'm gonna make this hook contents while the, while this one is actually gonna fill the container. Amazing. What happened in here? Why did this move? Fill the container. Fill the container. Okay. And this one is typing in progress, so the text in here needs to be back at 900. Great. Since this is going to be active at that point, because someone is writing, I want to make this 500. I want to make this 500. And this is placeholder, typing in progress, typing started, active, default. What else do we need? We need a disabled state. So on disabled state, I'm going to remove the stroke, and I'm going to make this a little bit darker. And I think that's going to be fine for disabled. Maybe the only other thing we can do is just make this even less noticeable, but I'm not sure due to accessibility reasons if that's the right decision, so I'm going to keep it like this. I think the stroke is going to be enough of a signal. And is there anything else that we need to have? There needs to be some kind of an error state as well. So let's, for that state, turn both of these icons red, and let's call it error. Okay. So if I drag this outside, I can then turn the icons on and off as needed. I can control the text from here. I can switch between active, typing started, error, placeholder, and typing in progress. All of those things are covered. Amazing. Now, one other thing that I'd like to do is for all of these components to be able to kind of turn on and off the kind of caption below the input field. And there are two strategies of how you can approach it. You can have labels and those descriptions as part of this input field, or you can just leave this as the input field and then move on to another parent component that has the input field inside of it. With the exposing of nested components update that we got in Figma in 2022, I think both approaches are basically the same and there are no true benefits to either of them. One thing that you can also do maybe is, instead of having these as options, maybe you can have drop-downs as a secondary item that's not connected to the input field if you want to have more control on the padding side of things. Right now for these, I think it's gonna be enough. I am a little bit bothered that the padding on the right side is not the same, so I might just do this. Because the left icon doesn't bother me too much, especially since I know that when we have text, the text is going to be aligned on the left side. But yeah, okay, I think that's it for the input field. So now what I want you to do as a task before our next video is going to be explained in the next lesson, and then we're going to move on to a new component after that.